address the student body of a small college in South Carolina. And after looking at the audience from left to right, the speaker began saying, "I was born to a mother who was deaf and could not speak. I grew up not knowing my father, and I still don't. The first job I ever had was in a cotton field." The audience was spellbound. The speaker continued, "Nothing has to remain the way it is. If it's not the way we want it to be. It isn't luck, and it isn't circumstances, and it isn't being born a certain way that causes a person's future to become what it becomes." And the speaker softly repeated, "Nothing has to remain the way it is, if that is not the way we want it to be. All we have to do is change a situation that brings unhappiness or dissatisfaction, is answer the question, how do I want the situation to be? Then we must," I'm reading from this person, "then we must commit totally to personal actions that take us there." And then a beautiful smile crossed her face. And she said, "My name is A.Z. Taylor Morton. I stand before you today as the Treasurer of the United States of America." For those who didn't know, A.Z. Taylor Morton was the first and thus far only African American to serve as U.S. Treasurer. She served under President Carter, and the only African American female whose signature appears on U.S. currency. Fascinating. The story is powerful illustration of this month's theme, which is turning impediments into empowerment. And we are using the book, "The Obstacle is the Way," by Ryan Holiday. What we face in this experience called life, we always have a choice. We say that, but we really mean that, because there are times in life where it looks like we really don't have a choice, but we do. She proved it. A real person. I'll give you the spelling of her name. You can look her up. We can be blocked by obstacles, or we can use them as stepping stones to expressing our inherent, our innate, and our divinely implanted greatness. Because we have within us a greatness, each and every one of us. There are countless individuals who have used obstacles as stepping stones to their greatness. What's the alternative? Stay in the victim role? Oh, woe is me? Doesn't serve anything. In this lifetime, we choose moment by moment, A.Z. Taylor Morton being one of them. Now it's our turn to get centered and to turn into our greatness. So the book this month is a roadmap of our journey by turning impediments into chances for empowerment, obstacles into opportunities to grow bigger in God, misfortunes into good, no, not good, great, misfortunes, no, great fortunes, complications into expansion of consciousness. So my invitation to all of you last week was to bring your biggest challenge to the table this month, this whole month, and let's work on turning it around.
Yes.
Our workshop today it goes perfectly in sync. I love the way the universe organizes our events and our lives and this service and this spiritual community, because it's about getting clarity. It's about getting unstuck. So according to Ryan Holiday, the author of the book, moving from impediment to empowerment takes 3 interdependent and interconnecting disciplines that can be boiled down into 3 words: perception, action, action, and will. Last week, we took a really good look at perception. And here's the briefest of briefest recaps that I want to share with you. And it's a statement by Eric Butterworth in his book, his fabulous book, Spiritual Economics. And I didn't share this last week, but I'd like to share it this week. So Eric Butterworth writes this: take a careful look at the challenges you are facing. A possible layoff, an important career decision, the inability to make ends meet on your current income. If you identify these as your problems, there is a tendency to see them as static and burdensome, and with a feeling of resentment and self-pity. This simply won't work, he writes. However, see the challenges as projects.
Yes.
And yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm thinking it right now. See these challenges as projects, and you tune in on a whole different flow of consciousness. You are faced with some opportunities now to grow, but you feel secure in the awareness that in the main, the answers will unfold from within. He continues, there is a sense of lightness, of clear horizons, of confident expectancy. It is the same so-called trouble, but your attitude is different. And according to your thoughts, your faith, and your feeling, it will be done unto you. This is a mystical teaching. It's a mystic teaching, he writes, that is ages old, but amazingly relevant. And it is. As you think, so it is. It's been said by every great philosopher since the beginning of humankind. It's been said, and it's the truth. So the incident, the challenge occurs. We have choice on how we want to view it. And last week I shared my whole spinal thing, not the whole thing, but a little bit about my spinal thing. Last week, I made that my challenge I was working on. And last week, I had the pain shooting down my leg, but I made it my project. So this week, I've seen so many different wonderful healers. And the pain isn't shooting down my leg because it's my project to know that this is what it is. How am I going to view it? Am I going to let it control me, or am I going to control it? Step by step. Step by step. And again, in the words of A.Z. Taylor Morton, she writes, all we have to do to change a situation that brings unhappiness or dissatisfaction is answer the question, what do I want this situation to be? Then we must commit totally to personal actions that carry us there. The fact is, action is commonplace, but inspired action is not. And what is inspired action, you all ask? Glad you asked. I want to suggest 3 distinctions between inspired action and distraction. Inspired action is in service to our greater life. Inspired action is action that comes from a higher place within us. Inspired action is action that is part of the process. What is the process? We're going to talk about that later. So let's unpack each one of those right here, right now. Inspired action is the action in service to a greater life. The greater life, that is the answer to the question A.Z. Taylor Morton said to ask was, what do I want the situation to be? So go right to the solution. What do I want this situation to be? Not what it is, but what do I want it to be? Or a bigger question is, how do I want my life to be? It is in service to your vision for life, is it or is it not? Inspired action comes from the vision that you hold for your life. The vision, the higher place of being. That's inspired action comes from there. Not from the obstacle in front of you. Don't make that the sole guiding force in your life, because you'll only get more of the same. When we focus on our greater life, we have to have a clearer head. And according to Ryan Holiday in the book, a clearer head makes for steadier hands. And then those hands must be put to work. And then we move on to inspired action is action that comes from a higher place within us, the divinity within us, that is always wanting to express through us if we would but pay attention and allow it. It doesn't come, our inspired action does not come from resentment, anger, fear at the obstacle. Although you're certainly entitled to have a little snit fit if you want. You can use that one. A little snit fit about it. But don't stay there. Move through it. Don't take action from that place. Never take action from a place of anger, resentment, any of that. Don't take any action from that place. It will not be inspired action. Rather, act from the place that sees the obstacle as an opportunity. Remembering Einstein's famous words. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to create them.
Yes.
I always love that.
Yes.
We can't. We got to change the cause. The challenge, the situation is an effect. Remember that. The cause is what we need to change, and the cause is our thinking. Inspired action comes from a place in us where we are consciously connected to the divine within. From that place that knows that it knows that it knows. From that place within us that is, that can never be harmed, altered, denied. It can never be hurt. It can. It is the divine essence that we came in with, that we leave with. It is the truth of who we are. It's never been betrayed. Our divine essence has never been lied to. It's never been hurt. Never, never, never. There is a place in each and every one of us that comes from this place of inspired action, if we get in touch with it and follow it. And that takes us to the idea of inspired action. The third, inspired action is an action that is part of the process. The idea of the process actually comes from Coach Nick Saban, the head coach of the University of Alabama football, of which I know nothing about, but all of you people here that are sports fans must know. And it doesn't focus on what every other coach focuses on, at least not in the way that he did and they did. He teaches what he calls the process. He says to his players this: don't think about winning the SEC championship. Don't think about the national championship. Think about what you need to do in the drill, on this play, in this moment. That's the process. Let's think about what we can do today, the task at hand. So you got a challenge in front of you. I'm sure we all have one or two, no?
Yes.
Maybe you don't. That's great. That's wonderful. But don't focus on that. Break it down into pieces. Living, and we can't say this enough, really being focused in this now moment and taking our action from the power of right here, right now. How do I move forward? And this contributes to the whole of life, your life.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. But we must listen, and we must take that step in this now moment. Otherwise, it's totally overwhelming. And then we move on to the next thing and the next thing. Following the process, not what we think the price is. Not what we think, no, the prize is. It's like the two, I would say, probably biggest processes that I've followed For the pure joy, well, it's probably more, but to the stand at, for the pure joy of doing the thing in the moment was my martial arts, the 25, 30 years, I lost track. It wasn't to get a black belt. It was because I loved it so much. I didn't care about the black belt. The same thing with the ministry. When I started taking foundation classes and all the enrichment classes, I wasn't even thinking of being a minister. I was thinking how much I loved what I was doing in that moment. That's what I'm inviting us to do with our challenges. Think about how we could move forward in the moment.
I love it.
Existing in this present moment, taking it one step at a time. As I say, 1 foot in front of the other, that's it. Not getting distracted by anything else. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." Such a wise man. I know that seems way too simple, but really, life is pretty simple. We say that, and it's true. We make it so complicated. We really, with our thinking and our stories and the whole scenarios, oh wow, we just make it like into this huge 5-act play. And it's a long play, and it goes on. It doesn't stop. We needn't scramble like we so often do in life to solve and fix the problem. Living fully in the now and remembering how things always worked out. If you look back in your life at different circumstances and experiences, this too shall pass. They always pass. They don't stay forever. We think they're staying forever in that moment because they feel that way. But if the greatest affirmation you can say is this too shall pass, because it will. And so remembering the first time you saw a complicated algebra equation. It was a jumble of symbols and unknowns, but then you stopped, took a deep breath, that's always important to do, broke it down, you isolated the variables and solved them, and all that was left was the answer. If you gave me an algebra example right now, I would not be able to decipher it at all whatsoever. But I can do addition, and I think that was one of my different... I went to 13 different schools, and I'm sure I missed like a couple of very, they say important, but how often? Unless you're a chemical engineer or something like that, but how often do you use algebra in physics? Anyway, I digress. Do that now for whatever obstacle. Take it apart. Let it just be in the answer. Be in the answer you are facing. Then take that breath and do the next immediate thing. And follow its thread into the next action and the next and the next. All moving you forward. Not backward, not stuck. Not stuck. Remember the psalmist's words. Thy word will be a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. This seems obvious, but we forget. We forget this when it matters the most. Perhaps you are stuck in bed recovering from an illness. Well, now you have time to write, reflect, meditate. Perhaps you lost your job or a relationship. That's awful. And give yourself time to grieve. We're not saying push these things under a carpet. We're saying look at them, go through them, grieve them. But now you can move forward. You can move forward. Don't stay stuck in that challenge and that grief. Perhaps your emotions are overwhelmed and painful. Turn it into a way to support others. Now you can have a deeper compassion than perhaps you had before. You're having a problem. Now you know exactly what to approach your mentor, your coach, your practitioners with. You know what you're going to bring. Maybe before you weren't clear. And Ryan Holiday writes this: seize the moment to deploy the plan that has long sat dormant in your head. Every chemical reaction requires a catalyst. Let this obstacle be yours. We must do, Thomas Troward, who we love, in the Dory Lectures wrote this: we must do our share in the work and not expect God to do for us what he can only do through us. We are to use our common sense. What's that? Our common sense and natural faculties in working upon the conditions now present, he writes. We must make use of them as far as they go, but we must not try and go further than the present things require. We must not try to force things, but allow them to grow naturally, knowing that they are doing so under the guidance of the all-creating wisdom. And so, what is then inspired action? It is action that is taken from our greater life. It brings us into a greater expression. That which comes from a higher place, we could call it intuitive. That gut feeling, as a lot of people refer to it as. And that is, and action, inspired action is part of that process, which is existing in the present, taking it one step at a time, and not getting distracted by anything else. You ever feel like you're really in the flow, and then you get distracted?
Yeah.
And what do you usually get distracted by? Stinking thinking. Thank you for that. What obstacle are you bringing to the table this month? And well, I'm inviting you to do this, to bring something you really want to make peace with and to move through with inspired actions that you could apply, that this inspired action that we've talked about today. So think about that for yourself. And if you didn't see last week's talk on perception, it is on YouTube under my name or Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center. So I would advise you to, if you want to look at it, it's up on YouTube. But I'd like to close today with a prayer written by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. And this is from his Science of Mind textbook. He writes this. So this is the prayer. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God, conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is a power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth, and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. And right action alone has power. Right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to follow the right course of action at all times. And for this, I am deeply grateful, and so it is.